This story is inspired by real-life accounts of people exploring abandoned places and experiencing unexplainable phenomena. While the narrative is crafted for storytelling, it reflects the eerie and unsettling feelings reported by those who have ventured into such locations. In the outskirts of a bustling city, there stood an abandoned hospital that had been closed for decades. The locals avoided, believing it was cursed. The hospital had a reputation for strange occurrences and unexplained noises that could be heard at night. One day, a curious journalist named Mike decided to investigate the hospital for a story. He entered the dilapidated building during daylight, armed with nothing but his camera and a flashlight. As he wanted the halls, he noticed that despite the decay, some equipment still seemed oddly pristine. Mike reached the third floor, where the pediatric ward used to be. There, he found a room with walls covered in drawings of happy families and sunny skies. But amidst the cheerful images, one drawing stood out. It was a picture of a little girl holding the hand of a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. Feeling a sudden chill, Mike turned to leave, but his flashlight flickered and died. The corridor plunged into darkness, and a soft giggle echoed through the halls. Mike felt a cold hand grasp his shoulder, and he spun around, but there was nothing there. In a panic, Mike rushed to the stairs, the giggling growing louder with each step. He finally burst out of the hospital and into the sunlight, gasping for air. When he reviewed his camera footage later, he found an image of the little girl from the drawing, staring directly at him with a haunting smile. The story of Mike's encounter spread quickly, and the hospital became an even more feared place. Some say the spirit of the little girl still wanders the halls, looking for someone to play with the eternal darkness. It was a dark and a stormy night. The rain was pouring down like buckets, and the wind was howling through the trees. In the middle of this tempest, there stood an old house, its windows boarded up and its paint peeling away. It was said that no one had lived there for years, but on nights like this, you could swear you saw lights flickering in the windows. Sarah, a curious and brave girl, had always been fascinated by the house. She had heard the stories, the rumors of it being haunted, but she never believed them. Tonight, with her heart pounding in her chest, she decided to find out the truth. She approached the house, her flashlight barely cutting through the thick curtain of rain. The front door creaked open with a push, and she stepped inside. The air was musty, and the silence was oppressive. She could hear the rain beating against the roof, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. As she explored the ground floor, she found nothing but old furniture covered in dust sheets and the remnants of a life long gone. It was when she reached the staircase that she felt it, a cold chill that made her shiver. She hesitated but then started to climb. Upstairs, the hallway was narrow, and the doors to the rooms were closed. She opened them one by one, finding more of the same until she reached the last door. It was different. It was locked. She could feel something behind it, something waiting. Sarah found the key on the floor and, with trembling hands, she unlocked the door. The room was dark, and as she stepped in, the door slammed shut behind her. She spun around, trying to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Turning back to the room, her flashlight revealed an old mirror. In the reflection, she saw not only herself, but another figure standing behind her. She whipped around, but there was nothing there. When she looked back at the mirror, the figure was closer, its eyes hollow, its mouth open in a silent scream. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized the stories were true. The house was haunted, and she was not alone. She had to get out. She had to escape the terror that lurked in the shadows. With all her might, she forced the door open and ran. She ran down the hallway, down the stairs, and out into the rain. She didn't stop until she reached her home, drenched and terrified. From that night on, Sarah never doubted their stories. The old house on the hill stood silent, watching, waiting for the next rainy night, for the next curious soul to brave its death.